Hello everyone and welcome to the Hobby Guard. In today's video I will be talking about an upcoming game called Cthulhu, the Cosmic Abyss. Did I say that right? I think it's more like Cthulhu, but I don't know. Cthulhu, however you want to say it. We're not supposed to be able to say that name in the human tongue, but anyways, it's an upcoming video game set in the near future in an underwater marine station, and it is heavily based on the myth of Cthulhu and some other Lovecraft stories. The Cthulhu mythos, rather, not the myth of Cthulhu. And the reason I want to talk about this is, well, first of all, I am a huge Lovecraft fan, or at least I really was growing up. I went through that phase I think every horror fan has to go through. And I also believe that cosmic horror, and I will heavily focus on the theme of cosmic horror in this video, I believe that cosmic horror is a great alternative to the unending wave of slop content that we are exposed to, because it is a particular type of content that requires you, in fact demands you, to slow down in order for you to actually engage in it. And talking about games specifically, by the way, the reason I talk about slop is, well, we are every day gonna see more and more video games coming up, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but just slop in general, not only in video games, but any sort of entertainment or media, or even nowadays, unfortunately, art, with the heavy use of AI for visual and graphic, quote-unquote, art. But anyways, I believe cosmic horror is a great mental exercise, if you will. And on that same note, you guys and gals, I suppose, know that in this channel I'm all about role-playing. So particularly in video games and in games, tabletop games as well, RPGs in general, that revolve around cosmic horror and the themes of cosmic horror, role-playing is almost a necessity, right? There are a couple of things that this game has to get right in order to work. There's a few things that any cosmic horror game has to get right in order to work, but I don't want to tax your attention span too much, so let's watch the trailer and then I'll talk to you a bit more about all of this.
This is Andrew Marsh. After years of searching, we found what we're looking for.
Home of the Ocean Eye.
He looks like a nice guy.
Scientists, all gone.
Evidence of a truth so unfathomable, it will rewrite the history of humankind.
Okay, what the actual heck is that?
The Cyclopean ruins we've discovered during our initial exploration are proof that civilizations rose and fell on Earth in its antediluvian past.
Nice.
Is this place?
Our first manned expedition will leave for the city in 2 days' time. We'll set up a base camp from which to conduct our exploration. If the maze is any indication, what we're about to see will change our very understanding of the universe.
Stay back! Stay back!
See you in 2 days' time.
See you indeed. So yeah, obviously the trailer looks very creepy. There are some very creepy visuals going on, but there is a lot more to cosmic horror, and the reason I say that it is such a good mental exercise for role-playing, and it almost kind of requires role-playing, is because the whole premise of cosmic horror, and this is where a lot of Cthulhu-inspired or Lovecraft-inspired or cosmic horror-inspired games, I think, often fail they don't have to be video games. They can also be movies or shows or tabletop role-playing games, whatever it is. Where I think they often fail is that they don't necessarily engage you. Well, it's kind of two things, right? On one end, when they just treat these horrors that you come across as just a monster to defeat. Oh, here's your sword, here's your gun, now go kill this cosmic entity, right? This elder god or whatever. And that just immediately defeats the entire purpose. Not because you can't necessarily, in like the Lovecraft stories, like physically fight some of these entities or creatures or whatever. There are certainly things that you can do almost to ward yourself from it, but that's not where the horror comes from. It's not about the monsters themselves. It's about what represents. And the thing is, in a lot of these Lovecraft stories, the main characters are usually the crème of the crème, crème de la crème, the top of the top of our most modern, at least at the time of writing, intellectual institutions. They're supposed to be these great intellectuals, these PhD professors of geology or biology or astronomy, right? Or these reclusive astronomers, for example. And when the story progresses, you come to realize that these intellectual tools that they had armed themselves with, and not only intellectual, but also basically anything, all the tools that we acquired through our history as a human species, our culture, our spirituality, our religious institutions, our academic institutions, everything that helps us build our framework for our understanding of reality actually proves to be incredibly inadequate at understanding the actual truth of existence. And so these are very existentialist themes that we explore in cosmic horror. And I absolutely love that, because a lot of these characters come to understand that the horror is not that there is a malevolent force out there that's just, again, malevolently out to get us. There's not necessarily like something evil out there. The forces in the universe out there are not so evil. It's just they are so completely indifferent and so alien to our poor ability to understand them that we translate that as horrific, because we are completely inconsequent in the grand scale of things, right? And that is where the horror comes from. Now, obviously, in order for that to work, it has to be very intellectually and engaging, but not only intellectually, as in like, oh, I have to think about the story or whatever. No, you have to put yourself in the shoes of these characters. When these characters, for example, the main character in this video game, it appears that he's gonna be some sort of private investigator working for a very shady company that's trying to solve this mystery in an underwater station. And, you know, he's trying to puzzle these things together. And in fact, a lot of Lovecraftian games often focus on private investigators or investigators in general, right? Not only intellectuals. But in order for it to work, there has to be something beyond the, oh, I need to solve this puzzle, but there might be a scary monster around the corner. No, it has to be a lot more psychological than that. So you actually have to engage deeply with the story, and you actually have to try to understand what these characters are going through, again, putting yourself in their shoes. And there is another challenge that this video game faces, or any basic game that claims to be a cosmic horror game, and it is that in true cosmic horror, it is often described that just your senses being exposed to some of these manifestations of the greater reality, the reality beyond our colloquial understanding of the universe, just drives people to madness, right? And obviously a video game is a graphic interactive activity, if you will. So you're absorbing it, yes, through your ears, but also through your eyes. So you are indeed absorbing it through your senses. So Obviously, the creators of the game hopefully won't put something on screen, and in fact, it will be very hard to put something on screen that actually makes you go mad. But I think it's not impossible. A lot of movies have done this in the past, where I wouldn't say a lot, not nearly enough to my liking, but where they almost play with your senses. Like, I don't know, it's a dim lit room, and there might be something in the corner, just out there in the corner of your eye, that you can't really focus on, and you can't be sure because it's not like out there right in the open. But at the same time, just that mental mind screwery, if you will, that is enough to make you doubt your own senses. And same thing can happen with audio, not only with visuals. And I think I haven't seen that in this game, unfortunately, at least not in the gameplay that we've been shown. So I think this will be going more for the interactive aspect of it, where you have this world and you interact with it, and it certainly seems to be very visual, and the engagement seems to come from solving mysteries for the most part. Like, that's how you progress through the game, and resource management and all the type of survival horror game shenanigans that we have become used to. And you know, that's a hit or miss. Some games have pulled this off in the past. For example, one of my favorite games, I think one of the best games ever made, is Bloodborne, and it's a cosmic horror game. And yeah, I know you do fight some of these cosmic horrors in Bloodborne, but the fact that these creatures exist and the fact that you get to fight them and kill them, that doesn't mean they are really where the cosmic horror comes from. Like, the creatures themselves are not the source of the horror. The creatures themselves, are a byproduct of the horror. The true horror in the video game Bloodborne, and why I think it works so well, is that society has peaked scientifically, and in fact also spiritually, because there is a religion built around the scientific discoveries that have taken place in this fantasy gothic horror universe. And when this society is at its peak, that's when they come across unfathomable truths about the cosmos and about existence that they just can't deal with. Things that they literally can't understand, and in fact those who try end up going mad. That is the horror, and that is admittedly so hard to achieve properly in a game. But yeah, I have a lot of hope for this game, but I just hope that the developers understand that it's not necessarily only about the visuals. Certainly the atmosphere seems to be there. Actually, one of the things so far in the gameplay that I've seen that this game has going for it, I think that technological advanced, like, equipment and space station and atmospheres that you are playing in, with the backdrop of organic corruption that perhaps can't be really understood. Not the backdrop, but that included with this organic corruption that we get to see. There's like fungi and organic matter growing through the walls and out of bodies. I think that is one way to achieve this, but it is not the only way. Like, this video game will really have to get us invested into the emotional journey of these characters, and again, just mentally engaged, not only in solving the mysteries just to move on to the next level, but of trying to understand the story. Because again, I think some of these games, unfortunately, and I've played other like video games like Call of Cthulhu and so on, it's just the mystery is not really attractive enough for me to be like, yeah, I want to know what's going on here. In a book you just have to read the story, and that's fine, because well, at least you hope there is a promise of a rewarding narrative or conclusion in the end, right? But in a video game, I don't know, like, I was playing the Call of Cthulhu and I was just unfortunately not engaged enough with the mystery itself to be like, oh, I really want to solve this mystery, and I pushed through it. But at the same time, again, we're just talking about like different avenues that games have to be able to take on like the huge boss fight that is producing actual cosmic horror. I'll give you an example from way back in the day. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, one of my favorite video games came out called Doom 3. And for those of you who don't know, in the Doom franchise, Doom 3 is regarded as one of the not so good games in the franchise, but I really enjoyed it because, so when I was younger, I started playing like the Doom 1 and then the Doom 2 and so on and so on. And, you know, those aren't necessarily scary games, but I was very young, right? So I would be scared. But they are games where you actually fight. You know, you kill demons with your shotgun, so you actually have the tools to make it through. But Doom 3 offered something that the other Doom games not always nailed, even though like there were moments where they did. But I'll dive more into that further down the video, further down the road. Hopefully I won't make this too long. But anyways, Doom 3 gave a story. So there were like these iPads that you would collect with like voice records or emails, and you know, Doom 3 takes place in this station in Mars, space station. I guess it's not in space, it's in Mars. But anyways, in Mars, where there is a demonic invasion going on, and pretty much by the 3rd or 2nd level, most of the people there are dead. Sorry, the scientists, the soldiers, whatever. And you sort of have to like piece the put the pieces together, sorry, of what went wrong, what the hell happened, why were these people what were they looking into, what were they researching. And to me, the horror from that game, yes, there's a lot of jump scares, and there's like, you know, dark rooms that you have demons jumping out from, and that is scary, especially when you're young, like I was when I played it. But to me, the true horror was to read or listen to those scientific records of these researchers, and to, you know, little by little put myself in their shoes, as they are at first very excited about like, hey, we're discovering this new technology that can help solve so many problems for our civilization. And you know, this can be a gold mine of resources for the future. And you know, there's a promise of futuristic Promethean expansion of yeah, I don't know how else to put it. But anyways, words are not coming to my brain today. I might have had too much fun last night. I do have a killer headache, so sorry about that. I am fighting my own cosmic horror over here. But yeah, this promise of the technology of the future, of like, oh, we're discovering something amazing, and slowly, I mean, you obviously know that it went wrong. Clearly, everything is covered in demonic pentagrams, and there's corpses and zombies everywhere. But you see through their eyes, and again, the story, like, if I go back and play it, it'll probably not be nearly as complex as I remember it to be, but I was a kid, and so it was more impactful. But to me, the horror was from, like, little by little, seeing them come to terms with this reality. They discovered the dimension of hell via teleporting technology, and they just can't understand it. And in fact, they do try to understand it, and it backfires horribly, right? And just seeing that, how they are let down by their own expectations of like, oh, we are so scientifically advanced that we can use this to mine resources for civilization and our company, the United Aerospace Corporation or whatever. And how at some point they're like, I don't know, I'm starting to hear weird noises. Oh, and people are acting weird around me. I'm like, oh, the people that we sent through the portal are not coming back right in the head. And you know, maybe my science book is not like really explaining this, but my religious coworker put it up in like terms that actually make sense about hell and demons and so on. And seeing these scientific minds come face to face with something that they cannot process intellectually, and well, I did find that very stimulating in scary terms as a kid, and I was very scared by that game. Obviously, I don't want to quite go back and replay it, because as I said, It probably hasn't aged, the story is probably not as deep as I remember it to be, but that's what I've been chasing from. And mind you, Doom is not a cosmic horror game, it's an action game. If anything, it's a horror action game, but it's more of an action game. Now compare that to the latest release in the Doom franchise, Doom the Dark Ages, another game that I absolutely love. Again, it's very high intensity, high adrenaline, lots of action, lots of combat, lots of carnage, lots of quick reaction, quick decision taking, and I'm all for that. But spoiler, for Doom the Dark Ages, there's this entire act of the game, that takes place mostly in like the cosmic realm, and it's heavily Lovecraft inspired, and it does a couple of things well that kind of mess with your senses. But at the same time, in the end, Cthulhu is just a boss with a health bar that you get to shoot down with your big guns, and that's the end of it. And to me, that's just a gimmick. Like, oh yeah, well, you know, I respect the hell out of the creative directors of the game, but in the end, it just comes off as, yeah, well, they like Lovecraft and they wanted to just put it in there, but it is not a good homage to Lovecraft. They just turned Cthulhu into a kaiju, basically, something that you can punch, something that you can fight, something that you can shoot. And, well, naturally, it's a Doom game, right? That's what it's meant to be. But just how I experienced it, compared to when I was a kid, is very different. And that's why I like cosmic horrors. That's why I have so many high hopes for this type of game and the promise that they show. Because, obviously, these games, they are at a disadvantage, because in the Lovecraft mythos, a lot of the characters just being exposed by these horrors, they go completely mad. Just their senses being exposed to these horrors, right? They end up going completely mad. Now, how do you do that in a video game? Well, through story, through role-playing. That's the only way, because, you know, they cannot show you something that makes you go mad, otherwise they would get sued. But yeah, that's that's pretty much not nearly all I gotta say, but I don't want to make this video unwatchable and completely unfriendly to the algorithm. So just, I would like to know now what your expectations are in a cosmic horror game, in a Lovecraft or Cthulhu inspired game. What do you think about this game? How does it look to you? I'm definitely gonna play this. I'm definitely excited for this now. I do have crippling ADHD, so whether I get to finish the game and enjoy it all the way through or not, well, we'll see. But I have very high hopes for this type of video game. And just in closing, I just really hope that it is psychologically engaging, that it makes me question my sanity through me engaging with, like, okay, what were these researchers looking for, and what horrible truths did they come across that actually make me question, you know, what truths, quote unquote truths, do I take for granted in my day-to-day life? Because, you know, that's when media actually impacts you, when you put yourself in the shoes of another character that's going through something completely different, and yet you find similarities, like, I wonder if I do that in my real day-to-day life, right? But yeah, that's everything for this video, I suppose. I feel like I wanted to say so many more things, and you know, my brain just stopped working as soon as I hit record. But anyways, thanks for coming, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment down below. In fact, I would appreciate it very much. Any sort of interaction, and even if it's a critique or criticism, is more than welcome. I can only learn from your comments. So yeah, see you on the next one. Ad Astra, and remember, there are no female custodies.